OpenAI releases a new Canvas feature for all. Microsoft says it will revolutionize search with its latest update. Open source developers are overwhelmed by AI-generated bug reports, and yet another Microsoft 365 outage disrupts Office web apps. Welcome to Hashtag Trending. I'm your host, Jim Love. Let's get into it. A friend of mine put a note in our Discord channel yesterday to make sure I didn't miss that OpenAI had unveiled Sora now, as if I could have missed it. But for some of you who might have a life or a job, if you missed the show and the announcement, Sora is absolutely incredible as a tool for generating complex photorealistic videos. If you've seen it, you'll know why my friend was so enthusiastic. If you haven't, you should, if only to see where the technology has taken us. In any event, my comment for him was, Sora on day 3 of 12 days? Where do you go from there? And on day 4, they put on a brave face and ChatGPT announced its Canvas program that had been in beta for some months with paid subscribers and is now going to be released to all ChatGPT users. Canva is probably best described as a new way to work with ChatGPT that is more conversational. In normal use, you give ChatGPT a prompt. It writes something underneath your prompt. You read it, you make some more suggestions, and you enter a new prompt and hope you'll get it right. Sometimes you might be 10 versions down before you really get something completed. But what if you could have your prompt and the response from ChatGPT side by side? And what if you could make slight changes to what ChatGPT's response was in real time? You just go over to the window and you make your changes. And if you could make those changes as you would with many editors, including bolding and other things you might expect in an editor, it might be a much more efficient way to do things. And that's what OpenAI has brought to you. And there's a few more tools in there that make it interesting. Canvas also will have a toolbar on the right, which will allow you to click for some common commands. You can make things shorter, longer, check spelling, even add emojis. In a nutshell, that's Canvas. But also remember, OpenAI has set these demos up to address common criticisms or complaints. So in this demo, they carefully showed the appropriate way for students to use Canvas for schoolwork. You can ask ChatGPT to give you your comments in your document. In the demo, one of the engineers had a physics problem relating, of course, to Santa and his sleigh, and he asked ChatGPT to give him feedback like a physics professor would. The text was then highlighted and comments appeared. And they were pretty good. And this is where I say they were careful to show the right way to do it. Because you couldn't just ask ChatGPT to rewrite your paper, taking into account what a physics professor would say. That would probably not go over well. But in the example, they carefully went through each comment and they made the individual changes in response to the comments. Now, one of the things that's frustrated me about Canvas was that you could easily lose track of changes. This version has a Show Changes button, which highlights all of the changes that have been made. It's excellent for checking your work or seeing what ChatGPT has changed. Another theme that came back was the idea of using Canvas as an editor for coding. Right now, they're focusing on Python, which is getting to be a very common language, especially in data and AI uses. And you can put Python code into Canvas, and like our earlier physics example, it will find the errors and give you comments about your code. And again, like our earlier physics paper, ChatGPT can find the errors which you can fix or ask it to automatically fix them. For the Python code, it has an emulator, so you can run the code, generate documents, and even charts and graphics. Now, the final demo was again Christmas themed, but showed a great use case where Canvas was added to a GPT, these small agents that you can write in ChatGPT. The GPT could read a handwritten letter, in this case to Santa, and generate responses. It was a great way to slide in the use about automating repetitive tasks like issuing standard responses, even when the source is a handwritten document. Bottom line, Canvas is a more collaborative approach to co-creating a document. I've tried it, and originally I wasn't thrilled myself, but given the improvements they've made, I might take another shot at it after these updates, which I guess is a success for the OpenAI team. It won't take our mind off the fact that Sora is still swamped and unavailable, but better than nothing. Microsoft tried to get a little attention this week with an AI announcement. It's quite relevant, and especially given Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google's attack on Microsoft, where he claimed that Google's search would change radically in 2025, and then he went on to diss Microsoft by saying he'd love to have a side-by-side comparison with Microsoft's if they had their own and not somebody else's. As I said at the time, burn. But it was probably not possible that Microsoft's new announcement of their integration of AI in search was timed to meet these comments, but it certainly did. Even if the AI was not their own, Microsoft came out with a very compelling demo, and they showed how interactive search could truly work. One example was planning a vacation. Now, instead of getting the search list of all the places to read through, then you go and search for the places you want to visit, this was all put into one interactive conversation about places to stay, places to visit, what amenities the different Airbnbs had, how you'd compare them. You have to listen to it to truly appreciate it, and I put a link in the show notes. It was a personal use case, but the applications to both work and personal life were clear. Despite Google's diss of Microsoft for not having their own AI, this is truly a compelling search application. The new offering is open for a limited number of companies with pro licenses, and I think it's just in the US for now. But by the time Google gets its search offering out in 2025, Microsoft could be on their second or even third iteration. So if Pichai thinks that Microsoft's going to be a pushover on this, he better go back and, instead of dissing them, come up with something that is truly amazing. And to the dark side of AI, the open source community is grappling with a new challenge, an influx of low-quality bug reports generated by artificial intelligence. These submissions, often riddled with inaccuracies, are frustrating maintainers and wasting valuable time, especially among these volunteers. Seth Larson, the security developer in residence at the Python Software Foundation, recently highlighted the issue in a blog post describing the surge of spammy LLM hallucinated security reports. He noted that these AI-generated submissions, while appearing credible at first glance, require time-consuming evaluation only to reveal a lack of substance. And Larson's not alone. Daniel Stenberg, the maintainer of curl, expressed similar frustrations, sharing an example of an AI-assisted bug report that wasted significant time. In his response, Stenberg criticized the use of AI tools for bug reporting, stating, "We receive AI slop like this regularly and at volume. You contribute to unnecessary load of curl maintainers." The rise of generative AI tools has exacerbated a long-standing issue of spam in open source projects. While tools like chatbots and large language models can assist with coding, they often fail to understand nuanced code bases, resulting in many false positives. Larson warns that these reports, though relatively few in number now, could signal a larger problem for the open source community. Whatever happens to Python or pip is likely to eventually happen to more projects or more frequently, Larson said. He expressed concern about smaller projects and isolated maintainers who might waste significant time addressing false reports, potentially leading to burnout. Larson is calling for pre-verification of bug reports by humans before submission and urges platforms that host vulnerability reports to limit automated or abusive entries. He also believes the open source community needs systemic changes, including funding and resources to support maintainers. Funding for staffing is one answer, Larson explained, pointing to his own role supported by a grant. Involvement from donated employment time is another. While generative AI holds the potential for improving workflows, Larson's message is clear for now. AI tools cannot replace human oversight in understanding and managing complex code bases. Addressing the challenge of AI-generated slop reports is essential to safeguarding the sustainability and efficiency of open source development. And I'd say, and now for something completely different, but it's different only in terms of it not being about AI. The actual content is getting to be depressingly familiar. Microsoft 365 experienced another widespread outage on December 10th, impacting Office web apps, the admin center, and services like Outlook, OneDrive, and others. Users reported being unable to access their accounts via web browsers, receiving error messages indicating a service outage. Microsoft recommended using desktop applications as a workaround for those who had licenses. The company eventually traced the issue to a problem with token generation in its authentication infrastructure, compounded by a recent service change that introduced an error in identifying token expiry times. A fix was tested and deployed within hours, reverting to an alternative token generation process and disabling proactive caching to mitigate the outage. Microsoft confirmed the issue was resolved after monitoring service telemetry. But this outage, which took up most of a morning for some people, follows a series of Microsoft service disruptions, including a major incident 2 weeks ago and a prolonged outage in July caused by a distributed denial of service attack amplified by a protective error. While Microsoft has restored functionality, the recurrence of such incidents highlights the challenges of maintaining reliability in its extensive cloud infrastructure. And that's our show for today. You can reach me at editorial@technewsday.ca. I'm your host, Jim Love. Have a wonderful Wednesday.